Raise the Vibration. How you doing? I am back with another author interview for Raise the Vibration, a weekly guide for alchemizing the human experience. Yes. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing? It's so great to have you in front of me. I know it's a tight screen for two people, but everybody, this is Josh and Regina, and they are longtime friends. I've known them forever. Shall we say at least 20 years it has been, probably about that. And oh my gosh, I see in my Zoom picture, but it's not on the Instagram. Oh, but it's on Facebook that Lexi has joined us. Hi, Lexi. Hi, darling. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce you to everybody first, and then I want you to kind of share about yourselves and everything you're up to. We met 20 years ago through Landmark and took classes together, connected in that way. Ended up doing a year-long course together. So we got to know each other really well, and leadership and development and all that beautiful, beautiful self-development courses that we took. And you are now not in New York anymore. We met in New York City, but you're now in Florida. So I just want you guys to just talk a little bit about everything you're up to and all that you do, because you provide so much for the community, both in a physical sense and also a communal sense of just bringing people together, supporting entrepreneurship, all of that. So can you just talk a little bit, both of you, just a little bit about what you do and all that you're up to?
Okay, he's pointing me to ladies first. Gentlemen at the end.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
So great to see you. So hey guys, I'm Regina Lamothe. I am the blessed wife of this amazing man, Joshua Lamothe, and the extraordinary blessing and mother of this beautiful girl, Alexina, right there. So 10 years, and Margaret, 10 years this July, came here.
Wow.
So I started a 10-year journey. Yes, 10 years like that.
Unbelievable.
I know. And now everything I'm up to is inside of a company that I created about 13 years ago. It's called Here For You. And so inside of Here For You, I get the beautiful opportunity to do very similar things like you do, have some amazing live conversations, which I think you and I will be doing upcoming this week, with people in my life that I feel have made such an impact in my life and have had extraordinary stories. So it's Here For You Connections and Resources. So I've got that going on so that I can I'm somebody who I want to be one conversation to have what you want for yourself in your life to happen.
Yeah.
And that's where I created that. And I get to have this awesome, fun, quote unquote job. I teach Zumba. I teach mommy and me classes.
Doesn't feel like a job, right? It's like when you love what you do. Yeah.
No, I teach Zumbini. I teach Sit and Get Fit for people with disabilities and people who are aging. And then I have so much fun being a life coach for moms and mom entrepreneurs. And so I'm in the outfit today because we just created a huge community event of 150 people that gathered. We brought a phenomenal instructor from Germany over here to the United States, to Florida, where he did a wonderful course for us in Zumba. We raised money for an extraordinary man who has been a mentor for many of us in the Zumba community. And he had a massive heart attack while on stage.
Wow.
A few months ago. And so we raised all this money for him, and we are excited to say that the convention just happened in Orlando, and him and his wife and his baby, and he's doing great. And so that's what community does, right? We do whatever we can do. And so we raised our vibration through Zumba fitness and through music. And so we had a great time and raised over $1,000 for his family.
I've done Zumba with you, girl, and it is a party. It is a party. If you are anywhere near her in person, or you can connect with her online, the amount of fire and energy that you hold, Regina, and you've always had that. It didn't just come last year or even 13 years ago when you started this. Like, the energy that you have is so profound and just so magnetic. So thank you. And Josh, you go ahead and fill us in on everything that you do, grassroots consulting.
Well, first I have to say how blessed I am to be married to her. That's number one. That's number one. And at the same time, yes, I am a consultant for small business owners. I help them and support them with their online web presence, with their branding, with their messaging, some of their marketing. And it's really a great joy for me because I think it's so important to have people follow their passions, follow their dreams, take a risk, give service to their community, doing what they love to do. And in this world, you really need a digital presence that's going to help you, or digital tools, like even right now, what we're doing, that can help you get the word out about who you are and what you do, and reach the customers and the people you're meant to serve. So I've been very fortunate to be able to do that independently for about 15 years, and just keeps growing and growing our community of people we get to help, and do these wonderful events as well, just to contribute back as best we can.
Yeah, and then I can say firsthand, because I've worked with you, what a joy you are to work with, and how kind you are, how patient you are, because technology can be very intimidating, especially for the artist mind, right? And so people who want to create and do things in an entrepreneurial way need platforms, need ways to get their message out. And Josh I remember when I met you, and my first impression was kindness, patience, thoughtfulness, and just the way you bring that in. I saw that spill into your work as soon as I started working with you. So I'm so glad you all found each other. I remember the love story very well, and just so beautiful. You have an anniversary coming up here now too. So happy early anniversary to the two of you. And I want to ask you, first off, and these two contributed a story from their lives that a lot of people may not share, because it is a very private story of struggle, of perseverance. And perseverance is the theme that I chose for your week of the book, because it is such an example, if there's ever an example, of perseverance in the face of adversity, disappointment, quote unquote failure or setback, as things were not going in accordance to plan or promise. And so I want you guys to speak a little bit about, if you would, while you have both overcome so much in your own lives, separately and together, why this story? Why did you choose this story for the book? Because we have 52 authors in this book who have all contributed stories of resilience, things that they had to kind of overcome, and now they see lessons that they didn't have before, and they're sharing that with the reader. So why did you want to share this one? It touched my heart, obviously, so deeply on a personal level as well. But can you share a little bit why this story?
Yeah, sure. Just to let people know kind of a context, this is a story about the adoption of our daughter at birth. And so we had an experience where we went about 2.5 years in the adoption process, and we had some ups and downs and all that. And I'm sure we can speak more on that. But to answer your question more specifically, we chose this question because, first of all, separately, yes, we've had other examples, especially Regina, of perseverance. But together, this was like the top, and we've gone through, deaths of close family members, and we've gone through hard times. But in terms of just her and I creating something that we then had to commit to, dedicate ourselves to, go down that path, and then go through the inevitable ups and downs of, and make choices like, are we going to give up, or are we going to start all over? Those kinds of things. And that to me it is about perseverance. And then on the other side of it, the result is a blessing, like the biggest blessing in our entire life. So it was not so much like we had to persevere through a hardship and just get through the hardship. It was like all that with the goal of having the most incredible thing that we wanted for our lives at the end, that we had to decide to persevere through.
Beautiful. How about you, Regina?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I'm like, she's going to be 6 in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, we've got a lot of perseverance to go.
Yeah.
So,
every parent knows that.
Yeah. So I'm like, we've got chapters more. Yeah, I think Josh said it perfectly. When you meet someone like you and Anthony, you have your separate lives and then you combine them, family becomes family. Your friends become your family. But this was was not in our cards. To be honest, I don't even think we have that in the book. But when we met, we were very clear that neither one of us was like, thinking about children. For me personally, I couldn't have children, and being with the age difference. But when it finally came to that opportunity and that question, it was like, that is something together we came up with. And together, this was not like outside influences or outside people, that we're now together because we're married. It was like, oh yeah. And that was why I think the story was the most impactful for both of us, because it's ours every step of the way. And so much, I think the most was like getting to know each other. We thought we knew each other. Like, not at all, right? Like, you knew what you knew, and then all of a sudden, like Lamothe says, you know what you know, and then you know what you don't know, and then you don't know what you don't know. Right. And that was, I think that was really the beauty of it. You don't know what you don't know. Because I think a lot of people have a fairy tale of, we're going to be parents and whatever option or choice you go to do it. And then in adoption, it's a little bit different. In adoption, like you gave us questions to think about before we came on. They gave us a ton of questions I don't think many people even think about. Right. And that had us, like, who would talk about that? Who would sit there and talk about some really tough conversations? And I didn't know his perspective on it, and he didn't know my perspective on it. So we definitely went through some interesting conversations and interesting spaces that got us to kind of know each other a lot more. That's the best way I can.
That's how things happen, don't they? Like when we go through, especially in deep, intimate partnerships, like marriage, you face things together, and it's so interesting with what both of you said of writing this together, that this made the most sense as a story, because Anthony and I both wrote independent stories, right? We both wrote separate stories, and having you lend your voices to the same story as husband and wife, so powerful. I can't wait for people to read your story, because I started thinking, well, what story would Anthony and I have written if we wrote it together? And there are things that you face by yourself, and there are things you face with the people in your lives, be it your family members or your partner or your kids or your friends, colleagues, and to go through something together has that opportunity every single time to deepen your relationship. If you choose it, if you choose to allow it to alchemize you, to kind of transform you, that metamorphosis of burning away sort of like the pretenses or the walls, and sharing this story. It's so beautiful. I can't wait for people to read it, because it's a testimonial of who you are individually, for sure, and who you are together profoundly. And I know when I read this, I just can't wait for the readers to read this story, because it's incredible. I'll give a little bit away about your story, that that they were going through adoption, the adoption process. They had secured everything, and then everything fell through, which happens, and a lot of people know what that's like. And then the agency, poof, went away, and they had to start over from scratch completely. And we don't know what it's like to be in each other's shoes, so we can't even fathom how devastating it must have been for these two to go through that. Just like nobody knows what you're going through. Those of you who are watching this live or in replay, like those of you who are going through whatever you're going, I think it's just important to recognize, like, it's one step at a time. And that's one of the things I pulled out from your story. For me, is it's not about like, are we going to get there? It's how is it going to unfold? And just the faith that you guys wove through this story, that I think is going to be so inspirational for the readers. So in your words, what do you want the readers to take away from this story? Because, man, if anybody is in a difficult position right now and they read this, they're going to have an injection of at least faith and perspective.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell my perspective on how I approached this, and I think it's applicable to like everything in life. It's one of those things I remember specifically, like where I was when I had this sort of talk with myself about it. And basically it was like, especially in the adoption process, it's almost statistically zero that someone goes through the whole process flawlessly. There's just so many factors you can't control. That's the biggest thing too. You can't control. We didn't control or foresee a bankruptcy of an agency. That was like left field completely, right? So you can't control. So I remember sitting, getting myself ready to go through this process and thinking like, okay, so if some kind of failure or some kind of a, what they call a disruption is inevitable, what if I could accept it now as if just part of the path? Like, what if I could just, in that moment, even if it's the hardest hard thing, you know, a birth mother who changes her mind at the last minute, a death of a child, maybe. I mean, something really hard that would disrupt the process, that I would know that like, that's just wasn't quite meant to be. Like, it's part of the path, and what's meant to be on the other side is like, is going to happen. Cause also statistically, most people fulfill on achieving the adoption process, and then they say, we're so grateful for everything we went through, what a blessing we had. So I was like, let me see if I could convince myself to just accept that now. And then it not only did help me, not to say it wasn't hard, but it gave me a context for those moments that ultimately proved true. And I just want to say to people, like, I think, and myself, because I don't do it for everything, especially the small things, but if we could just treat every moment in our life, no matter how hard it is right now, as this knowing of like, it's just a part of this process to get to what you really want. It's not like the end. And you don't have to make it as dramatic as we might if you can have that kind of context. So that was a big takeaway for me.
That's beautiful, because I think we so avoid pain. We try and avoid pain, but pain is a part of this existence, and pain is always there to help teach us or move us onto a different path or illuminate something we didn't see before. So I think that's so wise. What a beautiful message. And Regina, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, that was super beautiful. Like I said, you know, it's been a long time since we had the conversation. So to be able to hear it again, you know, again, reconnect with him and go, oh, that's what he's thinking. That's how, you know, he's feeling.
It's also in the book, so feel free to read
it. I would say for me, what just came up for me at this moment, really, because it's always moment by moment. I think that's the bigger piece, is moment by moment. So like for people, I have a background in this. It's been a field in this, but when you're a social worker, right, for somebody else, and then it becomes for yourself. So I've sort of kind of like, was like, okay, I've got to get social worker mind out and go into mom/wife role. But social worker like always came up for me. And I get a lot of people's like opinions, and I was so grateful. Like Josh was saying, like I was super grateful to say like, oh, that's why that was in my life. So I was able to look at things from many, many different perspectives. One of the things about being trained that way is to like take out that feeling and emotion, even though of course the minute something happens, yes, that's painful, but to like kind of take out that feeling and emotion and have the overall perspective, you know. So I'm always like that person where I'm like, okay, I love him, I love me, but I also, for me, it's super important about the birth mother. And so in the adoption process, it is always what's in the best interest of the birth mother. And as people who want to have a child, right? Like who want to have a child, I'm always like, but what is it, the best interest for the child that's unborn? And so that's really my like takeaway, which is always, she's ours and she's not, because we are a community. She's, you know, she's like the universe is, right? You know, and we just get grateful. We're grateful to play a significant role in her life. But you and Anthony were at our house, and she has that incredible moment with you guys, and she's yours, you know what I mean? So it's that attachment kind of piece. So like Josh said it in his way. So it was like, whatever is going to come out is going to be the best outcome. And we're not going to give up. So it's one of those, like, how committed are you? Like Josh was saying, like, how committed are you with something? If it's your business, right? Like, it's so easy. They say within the first 3 years, people fail and leave. Why, right? Well, why would we want, you know, if this is what we really truly are committed to, and we truly desire in our heart, then we'll go through whatever it's going to take.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that breath away, and sometimes you come back. And I think when that, like you said, that agency, it was that moment of sort of the universe saying, how committed are you?
Yeah. I love that part of the story because it's like, oh yeah, you thought you were committed? Here you go. And then
we were a little
this.
casual about it. Yeah, we were. Yeah. We were sort of like, we got this, because you can also get a little bit, I don't know, overly positive. There's that thing that, it's good to be optimistic always, but you can also be blindly optimistic, right?
Yeah.
And then you're unprepared for the thing. Like we had all our ducks in a row. We were making wise decisions. We were making great decisions. We were making, had all the paperwork in place. I mean, it was just like, then all of a sudden it's like unforeseen things on the other side happen. And it's like, if we were too much in our, everything is perfect, everything is amazing, it could be a devastation thing. So you have to kind of be realistic about it. Like, but also make sure you're doing everything on your end to be committed. So we were sort of in that space of like, we got this, and then when it happened and we had to decide to start all over, we were like, maybe we don't got this, and it was like a bit of reality check, but perfectly. Because then when we got committed, we were like, we approached it way different. We were just like not taking it for granted.
Oh, yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's like, because nothing ever goes as we anticipate in life ever. And if we can remember that, and when things kind of go a different way, like you said, Regina, detachment is super important. And if you're trying to control something that is out of your control, you'll suffer every single time. And just recalibrating and seeing it as a gift, seeing whatever is being thrown at you as a gift, because if you receive it as such, you'll open something and you'll find something new in yourself. And I mean, your chapter, I mean, it's just incredible because I connected all of the stories to chakras, and I picked the third chakra for your story, which is all about fire. It's the work, it's the identity, it's the ego, and it's that 8 to 12 developmental time where we really determine, we're kind of shaping who we are, how we're going to be seen in the world. And you guys, I just think the perseverance factor energy is in that chakra of really going for it. It's will. Will is a big word, a big key word for that. And, I'm so excited for people to kind of go through, read your story and reflect on their own area where they wanted something, but they kind of gave up on it, or they're in the midst of something and it's not going right. And so there's so much for us if we just don't give up. Yeah. So thanks for being an example of that, you all.
Right.
So I have one more question for you. So I have the book here, of course. Finally, yay! So where I'm like, yay! It's finally here. But I want to ask you guys in just closing, we have some blank pages at the end of the book for people to write their own story. I learned so much about storytelling. I thought I knew. And then I got into this project and was like, wow, the importance of storytelling. And I was reading all your stories through tears, trying to edit as there was tears streaming down my face because I'm so inspired by every single person in this book, and just the people I have in my life. So I want you to tell me, in going through this process of writing your own story, what did you get out of writing your story that kind of extracted, you touched on this a little bit already, but that extracted a new relationship to what you went through?
I'm going to say this one because this is kind of, you touched upon it in the beginning. This story had me very much remind myself of how important community is. Like, I'm emotional about this at this moment.
Yeah.
Like, really writing this story had me go two things. One is that Josh said it and you said it, taking for granted. Like, even if you think you know the person that you're with, I don't care if you're married 1 year, we'll be 12, my in-laws 50. You don't know. There's like, we're like unlimited. We're unlimited as a human being.
There's always more to discover.
There's so much more to discover. I don't even think we even know that we even know. Right. So that was like beautiful, right? Like, so we went through it. we have her, we get offered by you, and then we now get to write it again. And then we have more conversations, and I have my way and his way. And I gave him what I do know about him. He has that beautiful strength to put words together super powerfully in a storytelling way that really just is concise and clean and clear. So I got to learn more about that from him, like letting go of that and giving him his leadership to step in his strength, right?
Yeah.
And then he does what's best for me, which is I get to say what I need to say, and he's got such a great listening ear. And the other piece was community. I've got to tell you, if anybody's listening here right now and you feel isolated and you feel alone, you're not, because you're literally here. You're connected to Anne Margaret. And so you're not alone. And that is big, because our ego mind wants to be like, when something tragic happens, whatever that is for you, you feel alone. Even when you have someone, people are always like, you don't get it because you're married. But our mind, our ego mind is very tricky and has us feel very isolated, not understood, not heard. And so this really gave me that process of with him and the community, because this was not a Josh and me thing. This was like hundreds of people involved. And right? You've got the whole, we've had the whole Landmark community, we had the Florida community, it went across the world. And so I always just say to people, like, please, like, it takes one. And if you're connected to this woman over here, you got the hugest community in the world, and like us now. And so it really had me realize I don't want to live my life alone, like in a sense of I love to storytell and live my life. I get to know who I am through you guys. And so that's what I got out of that.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Josh?
Just the opportunity, at first, of course, like anything else that happens, it's like, why would I do that? I mean, obviously, besides you asked us to, and the answer is yes, like that's easy. But I mean, it's like, what's the purpose of it? And then I sort of remember getting present to like, well, it is a good story. And like what I shared earlier, the message there about, being persistent in the face of it, it's like, that's a good message. And I thought, if anyone can read this, who's going through an adoption specifically, definitely, but anything you're kind of birthing, or dealing with or creating, I should say, and what you're dealing with in that, I think it's a great story to tell. And so I just realized like it had value outside of like, when we just talk to people individually and just share our story, just the idea that it could get out there to the world, and I thought that was just motivating enough to get that will going, and do it. And then, like she said, I do have a sort of way with words, I guess you could say, even though I'm not an author, in my work, I do.
You are now.
So it was good. It was a good
You are an author.
Yes, that's true. I'm a published author. Yes. So that story doesn't work anymore.
No, sorry. That identity is out the window, bud.
Well, then it gave me the opportunity to be a published author. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it's so beautifully said of being able to connect with your story, and then also realize, as Regina was saying, and Josh, like instead of just talking to people, getting it out and sharing our stories, because the delusion of our separateness is so crippling in this life when we fall into believing that we are alone. And we're not alone. That's the dedication. That's the first thing I wrote is you're not alone, not even close. All right. And thank you guys so much for being a part of this, because I'm blown away by this project and how many people said yes. I was not expecting that. It just really made me face how blessed I am in the relationships I have in my life. And you two are like family to me. So I love you so much. And thank you for being a part of this book. Thank you for taking the time, away from your weekend, away from your gorgeous girl, to share this with the readers and allow them to kind of get to know you two more. And if people want to find you, as they should, just look you guys up and connect with you in whatever way, whatever they're offering. How do they find you?
Yeah, so number one is if you're on Instagram, I'm on for here for the number 4U coaching. So
and I've tagged you.
Yep, and
I've
tag
tagged
me
them.
that way.
Yeah.
And then, I've got Facebook is under Regina Rossi Lamothe. So and because you're friends with Anne Margaret, just type in Regina. I think if you're only Regina a friend, I think. So, or yeah.
Uh-oh, you're going to get me in trouble if there's another one. And
I'm
Josh...
Regina, my boyfriend. Yeah. And then, anybody, or just reach out to her, right? Just reach out to her and say, hey, I saw this girl, the one who was talking about the adoption story. So she'll give you the details.
Yes. She's amazing support. And Josh, go ahead.
Facebook, I guess, Joshua Lamothe. And if there's something professional related to the web development branding, that's my website is grassrootsconsult.com, grassrootsconsult.com.
I love that. You guys reach out to them if you need further support, you need in any way. I mean, they're incredible, as you've seen in this interview. Thank you too. I just love you so much and so grateful that you're a part of this book.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All the best.
Bye.
Absolutely. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, keep raising the vibration. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.